Hello, folks. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the Wolf Moon and the history of werewolves in general. Seems like a good show. Hope so. All right. Yeah, tonight... The wolf. Wow. That's right. Tonight was the first full moon of 2018, and they're calling it the Wolf Moon. I believe that comes from Native American, Scandinavian, and I think German as well, mythology. The full moon when the wolves would howl. Very, very cool. It was a pretty beautiful moon, but it was too cold to stand out and look at it for me. 'Cause, you know, who wants to put on pants? Who wants to put on long pants? Not me. Anyway, let's talk about the history of werewolves. The history of werewolves. I'm gonna go right here. The history and legend of werewolves. Werewolves, also known as lycanthropes, are legendary shape-shifting humans. As the name suggests, the shape these creatures take on is that of a wolf. The history of the werewolf legend has sprung up independently or spread to virtually every area on Earth. It is also one of the oldest legends of human monsters in recorded history, I should say. Where the legend originated can only be guessed by what humans have taken care to record. There's many things that have been lost to the sands of time that we will never know. Their other name, lycanthrope, may also be a hint to the origin of this myth. Throughout history, there are records of the trials and confessions or accused of werewolves. In fact, they were hunted, questioned, and executed in much the same way as witches were, because of often witches were accused of also being werewolves. These so-called werewolf trials give us an historical glimpse to the rampant human belief in werewolves. Some of the accused were arrested because villagers needed someone to blame for dead livestock or some other unexplainable occurrence. But others were accused because of actions of far more sinister and less likely to be contrived. An example is, 1521, Pierre Boudreau, and Michael Verdun were executed as werewolves. Historical records indicate that they were a serial killer team. In 1573, again in France, Siri just woke up. What does she want? She's trying to call into the show. Where was I at? Oh, yeah, 1573, again in France, another werewolf was executed. His name was Gilles Garnier, otherwise known as the Werewolf of Dole. He was a confessed serial killer. There were numerous accounts of such of these, mostly in Europe. Interestingly enough, the real wolves were plentiful in Europe at this time. Could people have simply been associating the carnivorous animal with people who behaved like animals? I don't know. A more infamous case of werewolf execution is that of a German man named Peter Stump, or Stubb, as pronounced in the English, but it is spelled S-T-U-M-P-P. So Peter Stubb was supposedly caught by his neighbors in a wolf form. They witnessed him taking his wolf griddle. What is that? I don't know what that is. A wolf griddle. Anyway, more on that later. Oh, okay. Well, they're going to tell us what that is. When they closed on him, at which time he reassumed his human form, Peter confessed to murder, rape, and cannibalism. His mistress and daughter were torturously executed immediately after he was. The executed for being raped by her father. God, horrible. What is worse, her father had killed her brother and eaten his brains before he was captured. Wow. Pretty hardcore, huh? While all of these instances are proof of a long-standing belief in werewolves, they are not the first descriptions of werewolves in history. What appears to be the oldest story of a werewolf is not a gruesome group of serial killers followed by an execution, but an ancient Roman myth. Ovid wrote in Metamorphoses in 1 A.D. In it, he told the tale of King Lycan. The origin of the word lycanthrope, who offered the gods to be served human meat to them at dinner. Jupiter punished his transgression by transforming Lycan into a werewolf. In his wolf form, he could continue his abomination of eating human flesh with less offense. Well, the Romans always had the great myth of, was it Remus and Romulus? They started Rome. The two brothers that were suckled at the teat of a wolf. You can look that one up. I believe I have that some similar for being right, something like that. Let's see. Yeah, religion has had an obvious impact on werewolf myth in areas where Christianity has been prevalent. Being a werewolf was associated with witchcraft and the devil. Of course. Even the wolf griddle found in a place in this Christian belief in werewolves. They believe that the belt... Oh, girdle. Man, I'm sorry, guys. I just can't read. At least I can laugh about it. Based on religion, blah, 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 the wolf girdle. They believed that the belt was furnished by the devil for use by his minions. Even Ovid's tale was based on religion in the sense that his form was a punishment from the gods. Does this mean that religion is the source of the werewolf myth? Probably not. It is more likely that religion is simply influenced a belief that manifested in human history for one or two reasons. Either werewolves were thought up to explain something else horrible, or they were real. What do you think? Anybody ever seen a werewolf? I haven't seen a werewolf. I'll tell this story after I finish this little history. But let's see. I did see something very strange. Several reasons for the appearance of the werewolf myth have been postulated. It is possible that the real werewolf attacks were the cause of superstition-led people to fear the worst. Suspects were subsequently tortured into confession, and Viola. You have, oh, voila. God bless America. See, these live streams, I can't hide anything. I can't edit it. You know the horrid truth. And voila. You have proof. Cementing the belief in werewolves. There is also the possibility that the werewolf myth was created to explain rabies. Huh. That would be a bizarre one. Humans do get rabies from being bitten by rabid animals, after all. One possible cause for the werewolf myth also aligns very well with historical werewolf hunts, and that it is that people were trying to explain serial killers. The vampire myth can be traced back to royals who had particular taste for bloodshed, like Vlad the Impaler. However, the vampire myth only explains a lust for blood, not human flesh. History tells us that cannibalism is a trait not all serial killers possess, but some do. Therefore, other explanations may have been needed. Enter the werewolf myth. Interesting hypotheses, I suppose. Werewolves eat humans, not so much nowadays, but if they could get to us, they would probably eat us more often. There is no denying that serial killers like Albert Fish and Jeffrey Dahmer do behave like animals. I give more credit to the animals. However, werewolf myth became to be well known. Ovid could very well be the originator of this myth, but in 1 AD, but it may also have existed in oral history before Ovid. I would probably think it did. Any of the above causes are plausible. However, we cannot possibly know unless we find conclusive evidence that werewolves have or have never existed. If we find one, the answer that would answer the question. We are much less likely to find an answer if there will be no werewolves to find. It is doubtful that we will ever find a postscript from Ovid reading, "I made it all up, guys. Joke's on you." However, one might say that that could all be assumed. Very interesting. What do you guys think about werewolves? We have open lines. If you would like to chime in. My one great listener is in right now. Every time I start a live stream, boom, there's this one person. I wonder who it is. Let's say hello in the chat. Hello! So yeah. Wolf Moon, werewolves. Where do you believe in that stuff? I mean, I have no reason not to really believe in it, or I don't doubt certain things. I have no proof. Of course, I have never seen one. I have seen, what I was talking about during the story as well, I have seen when I was, I don't know how young, I was pretty young. But I remember on our street in San Diego, we had alleys. There's bamboo and stuff growing in the alleys, and our alley was dirt. A lot of alleys had been paved, but our alley was still just regular dirt. and foliage and stuff. And I saw a guy. I used to always play in the alley, of course, because it's, it's pretty cool. A little bamboo forest and stuff. But there was a guy down the alley. It looked like he was picking something down, like maybe halfway down the alley, maybe. The alley was a block long. Just a regular block. I wouldn't know how to describe the length of it. Probably 15 houses long, maybe, or something like that. Anyway, he looked up at me and just like a gallop came at me, came running up the alley towards me, and he ran like a great ape. I swear I can see it right now. He moved like an ape, but it was a guy. It was a guy. He had a jacket on, like an army jacket or something. It seemed like, kind of long hair. Couldn't really see any other features, but he came. It was almost like he was running on all fours, but he wasn't. It was really bizarre. I didn't stand there and watch it long. I ran in the house and was freaking out. And my older brother David was there, and my dad was home. This is, I guess, on a week. It must have been a weekend because my dad was there at home. He wasn't at work. And I remember David ran around the block, and me and my dad jumped in the car, and we ran around, or drove around the block, and we couldn't find him. We were looking for him. Couldn't find him. That was really weird. That's one of the weirdest things that's ever happened to me in my life. So, don't know what the deal was with that. Maybe it was just some dude. I'm sure it was some dude just trying to scare the hell out of a little kid. But it was really weird. It was like he was looking through the grass. It was like tall grass. And he was on I think it was the left side of the alley, and he just his head rose up directly at me, and he just came running towards me. Crazy stuff. Man, I haven't thought of that in years. Gives me the willies. It was really bizarre. I had never seen anybody move like that. The funny thing, maybe I projected it onto him because I had seen the very first Planet of the Apes. I think it was a few years after that had come out. I don't know when that came out. This was early 70s is when this was. This was probably 1978 or 9 when this happened. Or maybe earlier. I might have been even younger. I don't remember. Might have been 1975 or something, 1976. But it was bizarre. It was strange. Really strange. So who among you went out and looked at the wolf moon tonight? It was supposed to have been pretty beautiful. I stepped out just for a second, but it was pretty cold. It's how cold is it here? Let's see. Let us see how cold it is in Jackson, Tennessee. Well, it's 10 degrees. That's pretty cold for here. That's unusual for us here in the west of Tennessee. So, oh, here comes a cat. What's up, Wicked Cat? I have a cat here in my office. I'm going to purr into the microphone. Watch out, buddy. What am I trying to do here? I'm losing my mind on air. I guess if you're going to lose your mind, you might as well lose it on air, right? But, yeah, that was just a bizarre very bizarre story. I wonder if my brother remembers that. So anybody, if you want to call in, the lines are open. If you want to call in, Skype in, you can Skype in at Wired Digital, or you can give us a call at 731-215-0064. We can talk about anything you like, anything you desire, anything that's on your mind for the New Year's, or anything else. It makes no never mind to me. Let's, I'm going to look at this. Looking at a website here, a very interesting little website that has a lot of nice little curated stories. Oh, here we go. Here is one about a gentleman named Bill Ramsey, the Southern Werewolf. Huh. It said that it's possible that Bill Ramsey suffered from clinical lycanthropy or demon possession. Born and bred in Essex seaside town of Southend, the first inkling of trouble came when William Ramsey was just 9 years old. Like any normal child, he was outside in his back garden when he began to feel strange. It was deep into one Saturday afternoon in 1952 when an icy blast of frigid cold swept over him. Perspiration froze on his skin, and a foul stench came close to making him vomit. The bewildered youngster only had two things on his mind: running away to a life on the ocean wave and wolves. By this time, he was close to the garden fence, and only the calls of his mother brought him out of what had gripped him. However, something else took complete control of him instead. Intense and pure rage had installed itself firmly within his psyche. Using this and the adrenaline-fueled strength he now possessed, he had uprooted a fence post with the fence still attached. As a 9-year-old child, and was swinging it like a club. Not even his parents could easily remove the post with their bare hands. What the young child did next made both of his parents flee back into the relative safety of their home, leaving Bill isolated outside. Bill Ramsey placed the wire mesh from the fence, I suppose, into his mouth and began gnawing on it. The cold sensations returned, and a low growl emanated from deep within him. Both his parents remained out inside the house until it was apparent that their son had calmed down considerably. For nearly 15 years after that terrifying incident, nothing even remotely similar happened to Bill in his life. He had grown up, gotten married, and become a doting father of 3. The first 2 years of his marriage, though were plagued by nightmares, each dream was the same, and the results ended up identical as well. Ramsey always awoke in a cold sweat and was overwhelmed by feelings of dread and unease. In his dream, he was always a few steps behind his wife, who would then turn to face him and then run away in extreme terror. It was only in 1967 that these dreams ended. 18 months on, and Bill woke one night to hear what he thought was panting of a wild animal somewhere in his bedroom. He was correct, but it was Bill himself. Once again, there was a lull in the activity for approximately 15 years after that. It was now 1983, and Bill was out with some friends at a local pub. After several drinks, Bill began to feel the same icy chills that first manifested much earlier in his life. He made an excuse and headed to the lavatory. Once there, he checked himself in the mirror and saw a wolf looking back at him. This was just a precursor as to what was to happen on the way home. In the car ride home, and without any warning, Bill began to growl and immediately turned to his fellow passengers. Oh, lost my place. I'm sorry. Began to growl immediately and turned to his fellow passengers. Both hands twisted into claws, and Ramsey tried to bite the leg of his friend. The designated driver didn't panic. He brought the car to a stop and made attempts to get Bill out of the back seat of the car. It took several minutes and quite a bit of effort to finally get Bill out. But by now, the frenzy had dissipated. The worst was to come. But not for another 18 months after that. Shortly before Christmas in 1983, Bill began to suffer from chest pains and thought immediately he had a possible heart attack. Bill checked himself in an emergency room of the local hospital and was halfway through a blood pressure examination when he sank his teeth into the arm of the nurse and ran through the ward like a madman possessed. Witnesses could later reveal that Bill had hunched his shoulders and both hands had curled into talons or claws, and his hips were and his and his lips were bared just like a rabid animal. Anyone sorry guys. Anyone that dared approach was knocked down easily, almost with superhuman strength. It took quite a few people working as a team to finally subdue this insane man. So let's jump to 1992. Bill Ramsey had last appeared in public in 1992. When he updated his progress, he just before an exorcism. I guess he got exorcised. The transformations were increasingly both frequent and serious. Since that time, there had been no incidents recorded. No one had been rampaging uncontrollably through the streets of Southend on the Sea in almost 15 years now, but Ramsey had been quiet for just about that long. Very interesting. So maybe he just thought he was a werewolf. Interesting stuff. Well, that's going to do it for tonight, folks. I'm going to get out of here. And there you have it. So if you were just now stumbling upon this show, please like and subscribe to this show and subscribe to our channel, and check us out on Facebook and like us on Facebook, A World of Weird. New shows all the time and some great guests coming up this month. It's going to be a great 2018, and I hope to see all of you back here very soon.